Cloud. And we'll begin with Chris Allen. You have 3 minutes for an opening statement. You have to unmute, Chris. Chris, you have to unmute.
Okay, I think that should be good. You can hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you to the Saugerties Democratic Committee for putting on this forum, giving an opportunity for the voters to receive knowledge and edification about who the candidates are and what the issues are, and to help guide them in their choice. I was born and raised in Saugerties. I graduated from Riccardi Elementary School in Glasgow, Saugerties High School, Ulster County Community College. I went on to earn bachelor's degrees from SUNY Binghamton and SUNY Oneonta. Went on to earn master's degrees from Rutgers University in New Jersey in industrial labor relations and communication theory from Northern Colorado University. I moved back to the area 13 years ago to take care of my father when he was sick with cancer. And I've been taking care of both my parents through their late 70s into their 80s for the past 12 and a half years. I got elected into the legislature 7.5 years ago in a race that very few people on the Saugerties Democratic Committee at the time thought I could win. I worked very hard. I reached out to all the voters in Saugerties in District 2, and they ended up winning by 10 full percentage points against the Republican candidate who had never lost an election on any level at all in 18 years. When I got into the legislature, I built up a reputation as being a hard worker who was very strong on constituent concerns. In terms of being a progressive Democrat, I was the most progressive Democrat in the true definition of the term progressive. I made government work better for the residents of Saugerties and Malden and Ulster County by working with town and village government officials to help out with improving the infrastructure in Saugerties and Malden, with improving quality of life issues, and really attending
1 minute.
meetings. I attended 75 village board meetings in 4 years and around 30 town board meetings. My previous opponent, who was in the legislature for 18 years, hadn't attended any village board meetings at all in 18 years and very few town board meetings. I gained a lot of experience while I was in the legislature, working with representatives, legislators on both sides of the aisle. I worked with county executives
30 seconds.
for 4 out of his 10 years while he was in office. During that time, I wrote the Lyme disease awareness policy for Ulster County. I wrote a lot of comprehensive legislation on healthcare, on improving records keeping on the state and federal level, calling for improvements in New York State record keeping law 1099, and calling for an improvement in the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act.
Time.
I also called for—
Chris, it's time. Thank you. I just want to let everyone know, I'm sorry that since we're not in person, we can't just subtly hold up a sign. So, I hope you don't get distracted, but we really need the timer to call out. So that's Chris Allen. He is running in a primary for Ledge District 2. Next up is Aaron Levine, who is not running in a primary. He is uncontested and will be running in November. Aaron, 3 minutes, please.
Yes, good evening, everybody. Thank you to Christine, the rest of the program committee for putting this evening event on, and for the Saugerties Democratic Committee for sponsoring this. I wanted just to say thank you to all of you for your hard work. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Aaron Levine. I am running for District 1 County Legislator, which encompasses the about 99% of Saugerties west of the New York State Thruway, and then everything north of Malden Turnpike on the east side of the Thruway. So this is the largest geographic legislative district in Saugerties, encompassing 99% of the town west of the Thruway, and again, north of Malden Turnpike, which is basically West Camp. On the eastern side of the Thruway. I ran for this office in 2019, 2 years ago, and came within 7 votes of defeating an entrenched conservative Republican incumbent who had been in office for a long time. So I am back for a second run for this office, and the incumbent is retiring. So this is going to be an open seat. And I feel that this is going to be a very good opportunity to get a progressive, younger person. I consider myself a younger person, but, looking at some of the candidates that are running in Saugerties makes me feel kind of like an old man, but I'm only 32, about to turn 33. I consider myself a young person. I think we need more younger people involved in government, especially younger people who have government experience. I am a near lifelong resident of Saugerties. I graduated from Grant D. Morris Elementary School in Blue Mountain in 2000, Saugerties High School in 2006, and I got my degree from St. John's University in Queens, New York.
1 minute.
With a bachelor's in political science and government with a minor in English. After working for Senator Charles Schumer as a regional office staff intern in the Hudson Valley, I worked for over 6 years in the New York State Assembly in Albany, working in communications for the Democratic majority under the Speaker's office. So I have both federal government office experience, working in a federal office,
30 seconds.
state government experience as well, working in communications. I want to serve our community here in Saugerties because I want to make sure that that children and the next generation here have opportunities to stay and thrive here. I believe that it's important to leave our community in a better spot than we found it. And I am looking forward to serving our community so that the next generation has opportunity to stay here and thrive. So I look forward to speaking to all of you and earning your vote in November. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. Aaron, as I said, is not in the primary. The next person up is Joe Maloney, who is in the primary for Ledge District 2. So, Joe, you have 3 minutes. Unmute, and you're on.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks for putting it on. Thanks to the program committee. I think this is a pretty cool thing, and I think in years to come, hopefully we'll be in person, but these kind of debates, especially for contested primaries, I think are a great way to get thousands and thousands of Democrats the opportunity to come in and really learn who they're voting for in that primary, which a lot of times is going to decide the election. This is a forum, but it was debates and elected officials and knocking on my door for years and talking to them that I think led to me getting involved in politics myself. At times it was frustrating. I love tuning into debates, whether it was the presidential debate or the gubernatorial debates. And I was always waiting for someone to make me understand what they were going to do and how they were going to get there. And oftentimes, all too often, and I hear this from a lot of people, you leave the debate with nice sounding phrases about the environment and lower taxes and inclusion. And you're never really made to feel that they had any real plan or clue as to how they were going to get there. It was, give me your vote and then I'll get there and I'm going to get things done. And then 2 to 4 years later, you're watching a debate again, or they're at your door again, and you're hearing the same promises. So I actually came across my palm card the other day, my original palm card when I first ran for legislator. And aside from it there being a lot more hair and half the kids, and I think there's a correlation there were goals on the back. And when I went door to door and had an engaging future constituent, I'd ask them, look at these goals, point at something, and let's talk. And I want to make you understand how I'm going to get there. And it was important for me to be different than what had frustrated me and got me into politics.
1 minute.
There was health insurance contributions, term limits, bringing back memorializing resolutions, plastic restrictions. We did all that. I did all that. I put real legislation up. I got it passed. And I feel pretty good about what I was able to do in those 2 years. And I think a lot of times people serve and had someone else been there, I think they could have made the same votes. I don't think a lot would have changed. I have a whole nother palm card with a whole nother bunch of goals that I plan on talking a lot about tonight. And I hope everyone listens to the specifics tonight, because that's what you need. That's what you deserve. That's how you're going to know that you're going to vote for somebody that's actually going to go get things done. If you hear adjectives and great sounding phrases without them making you understand how they're going to get that done, then it's just that. It's an empty promise. And I'm going to try to be really specific tonight when I talk about some of the things that I'm running on. Thanks. And I have 4 children, and I'm a local business.
Thank you, Joe. So I said Joe is running in the primary. The next person up is not running in a primary, is uncontested, and it's Eric Minocha. Eric, you have 3 minutes. You're
Hello,
up.
can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you for everybody putting this on. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Eric Minocha, and I am running in Legislative District 3. I'm a 20-year-old Pakistani American, which makes me the youngest person running in any election in Ulster County and one of the only people of color, both of which are 2 things that are important to me. I believe that people of color need more representation in Ulster County across the board, and younger people, and those are 2 things that I'm going to bring to the legislature should I win. When one of the primary reasons that I decided to run in District 3 is when I found out that nobody has opposed this Republican incumbent in over 10 years. And it made me very sad. And I think that people should have the opportunity to have somebody to vote for. Whether or not I win, giving people the opportunity to have someone to cast their vote on is something that's important to me. 2 of the biggest things that I'm running on are, 1, what are we going to do if the dump that all of Ulster County's garbage goes to closes down in 2025, which is a concern? And 2, why is the current legislator in District 3 so inaccessible to everybody? And why does he not answer calls or respond to people in the way that he should? It is my belief that a legislator should be accessible, easily reachable on social media, and as public as possible. And that's one thing that I know I will do. And to go back to what I was saying about the dump, we have all of Ulster County's garbage goes to the Resource Recovery Agency. One is on 32 going towards Kingston, and there's another facility in New Paltz, all of which gets exported into a dump in Seneca Falls. And there's a chance that could be closed down in 2025. And myself and my friends toured the dump facility last week, and we actually walked through and saw everything and how it works. And I learned a lot, and I will say that there is a lot that goes into it, and it's something that I'm going to continue to look into. But those are the 2 of the primary things that I'll be focusing on.
1 minute.
There's also, and to go back to what I was saying about the dump, I learned that 12 to 15 semi-trailer loads of garbage are actually exported every day, which just goes to show the magnitude of garbage that Ulster County is dealing with, which is why it's very important that we find a solution to this, and whether or not we're going to have a dump in Ulster County or elsewhere. And me and my friend John Schoonmaker, he's one of the people that we went to go look at this with. He and I learned a lot. We were talking to
30 seconds.
and the director of sustainability there to learn all this kind of stuff. And yeah, those are the 2 things that I'm running on, and that's what I hope to bring to the legislature. My plan is to sit on the Economic Development Committee and the Public Works and Capital Projects Committee. Just with my business experience and my personality, those are the 2 things. Those are the 2 committees I know will be the most helpful on. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Eric will be on the ballot in November. Before we move on, Eric, I just want to let you know that I'm not sure if I was the only one, but your mic is going in and out, which of course, again, is the problem of Zoom. If it was Zoom, we wouldn't be screaming out 1 minute, 30 seconds, and we'd also be hearing and seeing each other. So you might want to check that mic connection for the rest of the debate. I'm sorry, the rest of the forum.
Thank you.
It's not a
Thank
debate.
you.
Okay, now someone again who is in the primary for Legislative District 2. He's up, 3-minute opening. John Schoonmaker, you're on.
Hi, everyone. First, thank you to Christine and the programming committee for putting this on. I think this is kind of the first of its kind for these primaries. I know when I ran in 2019, we didn't have a forum like this. I think it's, like Joe said, very beneficial to allow voters to be able to come ask us questions, hear what we're about, because, all of us, we're going to be busy out knocking doors. Our volunteers will be out knocking doors, but you just can't reach everyone. And I think this is a great opportunity to let people come to us and also get the recording out there and let people really see what we're all about. A little bit about myself. I'm sure most of you know that I've been on the Saugerties Town Board since 2017. At the time that I was elected, I was the youngest in Saugerties history to be elected. Unfortunately, Mike Ivino did take that title from me when he won by just a few months. But it's really great to see so many young people running for office. I think it's something we need more, especially in these local levels. We're a group that's been underrepresented, and I think we tend to be intimidated from it. A bit about my journey to where I've gotten here today. I think it was back in 2015 where I first actually showed up to a town board meeting and spoke out on, it's a thing of the past for many of us, but the Pilgrim Pipeline. You know, at one point we were facing a pipeline coming right up along the freeway. And for me, you know, the environment, as many of you know, has always been an issue very close to me, having studied biology with a focus at the end on conservation biology. It's something that is very dear to my heart. And so I had gotten up, spoke about that. From there, I ended up becoming a field manager for Zephyr Teach Outs campaign in 2016. Really, that's where I got a love for the field work, for the going out, knocking doors and learning that that's really, you know, the meat of it is getting out and talking to your constituents. From there, I ended up deciding to run for town board. It was a long shot of a race. I only had the Democratic line at the time. Many thought it would not be possible to win, but I managed to win that by 43 votes. It was a shock to me. I think it was, you know, but it was a very good.
1 minute.
In my time on the town board, we have adopted our comprehensive plan. We've created the Bristol Beach. We were able to fund a new roof for the ice arena that is not going to cost anything to the taxpayers, which that is a huge revenue source and I think a huge accomplishment. Similarly, we've been able to secure numerous grants and funding for a new animal shelter that's going to be state-of-the-art when we get it built, and it will provide for tons of communities around us and not just
30 seconds.
as well as let me think. Oh, and at the same time, while doing all of this, we've been able to actually increase our fund balance. You know, I'm sure many can remember not too long ago that Saugerties wasn't in too great of a spot, and I think we can proudly say we are now able to weather an emergency that comes along. And all this I've helped accomplish at the town board is what I'd look to bring to the county legislature. You know, pushing the environment and
Time.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you, John. Again, John is running in the primary. Now we're going to go away from the legislative candidates and the two town positions that weren't on last week's. So I'm going to begin with our our town supervisor, Fred Costello. You have 3-minute opening. You're on.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you for everyone who's participating. I'm very grateful to have this opportunity. And I think this is an exciting format. And I know it was a lot of work and took some creativity to put together. So we're grateful to be here and grateful to share our thoughts with everyone. For those that may not know me, I'm a lifelong resident of Saugerties. My family has operated businesses in Saugerties for their entire adult life, and I've worked with them. I've also had the honor of serving our community in a number of capacities. I'm seeking my 3rd term as the town supervisor. I've been honored to have the Democratic support in both of my elections for town supervisor. And I'm very proud of many of the achievements. Mr. Schoonmaker just outlined some of the work that we have achieved, and there's more. We've really changed the human resources side, and Mrs. Dunn is with us and she'll share some of this as well. We adopted the first employee handbook that the government has ever had. We are currently up to date with all of our training for OSHA and sexual harassment and all of those types of trainings that are very important and make a stable and healthy workforce. And those administrative things, well, they're not very shiny and glossy. I'm very proud that we've been able to achieve them. We've also moved very strongly towards digitizing the budgetary process. Budgets are cumbersome and confusing for a lot of people. And I feel like having accurate information and the same data for everyone to see is a really important component of that. And by digitizing the budgeting system, we've achieved many of our goals, and we have, as administrators, a much better ability to track the areas of the town that we represent and make sure that the department heads are living within the budgets that we allocated to them, and kind of catch things before they get out of control. I'm also very proud of our police department. We have, with the help of many of the folks on the call, took a hard look under the hood. We found out some good things about our department, and we found out some areas where we can improve. That is something that is currently underway and in discussion. We've taken some small steps to implementing some of that already. I expect over the coming months we'll do more. And I'm really proud of many of the energy efficiency initiatives that we've been able to achieve. The ice rink hopefully will get the benefit of a new chiller. We will capture cost savings and reduce our climate footprint. We also became the first climate smart community in Ulster County and first climate smart town. And that was a very hard thing to achieve, but we had amazing volunteers that helped us through it. And we are reaping the benefit of that by reducing our carbon footprint and saving money at the same time. And this is a rare occasion where we can achieve both of those goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Fred's running again as our Democratic candidate for town supervisor. Now, this is actually the first time I've ever been at any place that the receiver of taxes comes before us. And I'm really pleased because I, like probably others, might not really know what happens. And hopefully you'll clear that up for us. So you have 3 minutes for your opening statement. Julie Dunn, receiver of taxes.
Hey everyone, thank you for putting this together and thanks for having me. For those who don't know me, I have lived in Saugerties for the last 27 years. My husband and I have 3 daughters that all graduated from Saugerties High School, and I have an associate's degree in accounting from Ulster County Community College. I started working in the village of Saugerties in 2003. I was the treasurer, which included tax collecting and doing their bookkeeping work. And in 2012, I moved over to the town and started working part-time in the tax office. And once I did that, the bookkeeper position became available. So I transitioned into the full-time position of bookkeeper. After the unfortunate passing of Susie Filak, I was appointed to be the tax collector. And once I moved into that position, the town passed a local law combining the bookkeeping position and the tax collector position. And we were able to save the town $20,000 by doing that. So I wear many hats now. Before COVID, I was investing tax money into CDs, which since 2018, we earned the town $75,000 in interest income. Once the rates go back, hopefully soon, then I'm going to continue to do that to earn more money for the town. I also worked, as Fred said, with the board and town consultants to develop and implement the first ever handbook for the town. I also share tax services with the school district.
1 minute.
Sorry, I'm not very good at this. I work with the school district and field all of their phone calls and inquiries, and I work with the business manager to make sure that our books balance to the penny. Once COVID hit, I knew I had to change the way that we collected taxes. We wanted to keep the residents safe and our staff safe. So, and I had also had many requests for online payments and credit card payments. So I researched and found a software system that fit our needs. So now our residents can pay their taxes online by credit card, by e-check, right from the comfort of their home. So now you can pay online and 24/7. I also put a drop box outside our door. So when our offices are closed, people can come in and leave their payment and we send them a receipt.
Time.
Thank you for your continued support.
Thank you, Julie. And that was eye-opening for me. I really admire people with math. I glaze over with numbers. So thank you. So we're going to begin the section of asking questions. And this will be to all of the candidates, and we will do it in alphabetical order. And again, please, only 1 minute to answer the question. So be really concise so everyone can get it, okay? Since Chris Allen started, we're going to go with Aaron Levine as the first one. So Aaron, concentrate, you're up first, okay? So here's the question. What are 2 essential character issues or traits that you would require in order to vote for a candidate running for the position you seek? The example they gave was like maybe empathy, dependability. It was like really character traits that you wanted to see in someone for you to vote for them for your position you're on.
So two traits that I think are going to be very important that I think that I bring to the table and that I would want any candidate for this office to show are competence and a sense of intrigue. I think it's very important you want somebody who has the ability to do the job, who has relevant government experience, who can bring to the
30
table
seconds.
and that can work well with others. But you also want somebody who is not necessarily dyed in the wool or set in their ways and is open to compromise and to new ideas. So that's a sense of intrigue that I think is important because you can't necessarily think that you have all the right ideas all the time. You need to be open to other people's ideas, to listen to what they have to say and perhaps change your mind or bring a new perspective to issues. So those are two things that I think are very important for a candidate in this office or any office for that matter.
Great. Thank you. Now we have Joe, who is in the primary. Okay, so Joe, 1 minute.
Off the top of my head, two words, intellect and integrity is something I look for and something that I hope people find that I have. You have to have the brains to do the job. To be a legislator, it's a $330 to $350 million budget. And you have to have integrity, nothing for personal gain. In the private sector, everybody gets what they can get. You want to make the most money you can. You want to put the most money away. You want to do as much as you can for your family. But when you get involved in politics as an elected official or an appointee, it is nothing for personal gain. I remember I had a couple of friends ask me once I got elected a legislator if they could use me for a job reference. I said, sure, just make sure you write down Joe Maloney Wine and Liquor. They said, well, no, I was going to put legislator. I said, no. I didn't get elected to get anybody a job. Intellect and integrity. And if you have that, you're going to work hard. All the other things come. If you're smart and you have integrity as an elected official, everything else will take care of itself.
Great, thank you.
Next time.
Okay, next is Eric.
Everybody hear me now? Good.
Talk loud.
All right, I'll talk loud. For me, it's pretty simple. I would say availability and the ability to listen. You have to be available. You have to have time to be present in the community, and you have to be a good listener and listen to people's problems and search for things that could be wrong and be present in the community as much as possible. So availability and the ability to listen.
Okay. Up next is John.
So while this could be a long list, I think the two that come to the top of my head would be honesty and empathy. Honesty in the sense of you need to be upfront with your constituents. You need to let them know what's going on. You need to be transparent. On top of that, you've got to be ready to give them the hard news if something they want to be done can't be done, or this is how it's going to affect you. I know this is not positive. Let's work together to how to figure it out. I think a big part of that's also admitting when you've made a mistake or there's something that went wrong, and also being able to admit when you don't know something. You got to be able to go to the experts, but you're not going to know everything. And with empathy, I mean, that kind of goes without saying. You need to be able to know what people are going through, put yourselves in their shoes, envision yourself, what they've been going through, and be able to connect with them on that level so you can really make sure that what you're proposing is going to deliver for them.
Great, thank you, John. I just want to say I really admire the people being able to talk when someone calls out time and you keep going. So thank you it's an awkward situation, but thank you, you're doing great. Next up is Fred Costello.
So I'll echo a little bit of what John and Eric said. I think honesty is integral. There's a natural skepticism about what public officials may be up to. So making sure that you articulate what you're doing in an honest way to the residents you're trying to serve is very, very important. And I think it's important to have those conversations, especially when something might be difficult or not coming out the way we all hoped, so that people have a fair expectation about how the problem may get resolved or the scope of the problem as it exists. In addition to that, I think being a good listener is key. Something might sound great in the echo chamber of our head or when we're with our close friends, but it's important that when we bring that out to the public, if we're getting comments that are inconsistent with what we thought might be the outcome, we have to take them seriously and be modest enough to be willing to account for that position and perhaps change our own point of view. So I think those 2.5 things are key.
Great, thank you. Okay, Julie, you're up next.
I think the two things for my job are accountability and patience. I collected like $64 million and I have to account to that for the penny. No ifs, ands, or buts. And the other thing is you have to have patience because people call in, they're troubled, they're anxious, they're angry, and you need to just take that all in and listen and just be empathetic with those people.
30 seconds.
Great, thank you. Chris, you're up. You got to unmute, Chris. Chris, you got to unmute.
How are we now?
Good. Got
I
a
would-
minute.
I would like to echo the sentiments of my two other opponents that are running in the primary. I was thinking the same thing as Legislator Maloney, integrity and intelligence. And I think off of intelligence, you can look at whether or not somebody has the ability to grasp legal concepts and policy setting concepts of what you need to have in the county legislature.
30 seconds.
I have a graduate degree and some legal experience, which allowed me to plug in very quickly as a legislator and work very effectively. Diligence. You need to work very hard and follow through with what you promised that you're going to follow through with. When show up to the meetings, you're a paid professional as a legislator. You have to conduct yourself in such a manner, and you have to treat it like a job, not a hobby. I think are the main things that you should look.
Time.
Thank you, Chris. The next question, although I'm going to give it to all of the candidates, Julie doesn't have policy issues, but so maybe you could just weigh in from a tax head about this question, because you obviously don't do policy. But I'm going to give this out now. In the course of election time, we hear promises of tax reduction. What is your plan for tax reduction, not just to stay below the 2% cap, but what are your plans to keep it at 0 or below? And the first person up is Joe. 1 minute.
There we go. When it comes to taxes, those are going to be two different questions for the town and the county. As far as the county goes, we talk about lowering taxes a lot, but rolling up your sleeves and really doing something about our tax problems is going to take some seriousness. And I have a plan. I think we need to raise the short-term rental tax, the occupancy bed tax, which is at 2%. New York City, it's 8% already, maybe 10% by now. We can raise that 8, 10% just on Airbnb, share it with the towns, go to countywide assessment. There are towns in the southern part of the county that haven't been reassessed in 40 years. I think we need to look at a countywide assessment. Sales tax, we don't get nearly as much of the sales tax as we should. The city of Kingston gets 85% of the municipality's taxes that was set up many years ago. It needs to change. We need to get a lot of that back. IDA accountability, we need to make sure these abatements aren't being given out so easily. And I think we need to start lobbying the state for more state aid when it comes to the algorithm that kind of does not do good for Saugerties with taxes.
Okay, time. Thank you. Okay, Eric, you're up.
So I don't have a great formulated answer for this, but the way I'll answer it is the way that we start in terms of this. The reason why people want taxes to be lower is because either they are too high or they're afraid that they're going to go up. And educating people that when their assessment increases on their property every year, it doesn't necessarily correlate with an increase in property taxes or any tax for that matter, unless the cost of government goes up. So I think the first step would be education. And then, like I said in my intro, I would like to sit on the capital project, economic development, and then public projects, committee, and sit on those and look at the kinds of things going in there. And just seeing what the county's spending money on. So those would be the two ways I would answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you. John, you're up.
All right, so I guess the first step would be one of the things that I really think we should do is looking through the $300 million budget. You know, having spent time on the Saugerties Town Board, when you start really looking through that line by line and really starting to dig into it, you end up finding quite a few savings in there. Either you can cut those out or move them around into services that really be needed. On top of that, you know, Joe had mentioned, you know, looking at countywide assessment. I think something that the county could look to is how Saugerties here, we do something that's called trending, where we're able to keep doing assessment
30 seconds.
and we're able to kind of keep going up with the market and really have an accurate value of what the properties are worth. And I think another area we need to revisit would be the county sales tax agreement. I know that they finally made some grounds on that this past year. I think we need to go a little bit further. I think we need to lobby the state to really force Kingston to open that up more, because a lot of that revenue that comes from Saugerties, New Paltz, Woodstock is not really being brought back to the towns that have been producing it.
Time.
Thank you. Fred?
So I would caution anyone running for office not to promise you will lower taxes. It's these budgets are extraordinarily difficult, but you can make strides and you can manage costs. Something that we've done together on the town board, and Julie's part of this, is we've been strategic about investing the money when it comes in so that we generate revenue with that. We are strategic about giving the realistic budgets to the departments that request them when we adopt our
30
budget,
seconds.
and we make them live within those budgets. We also look for opportunities to create revenues. I think no one would have anticipated the revenues that the ice rink is generating when it was first envisioned, but that's a way to provide a service, and it's paid for by the users, and the burden on the general public is very small. So I think those creative ways are ways we have to continue to move forward and continue to try to manage those resources in a way that does not create a burden and hopefully relief
Time.
for the taxpayers.
Thank you, Fred. Julie, again, I know you're not policy, but would you like to say something in response to this question? You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry. So I like what Eric said, is to educate the people more, definitely, because we get a lot of calls about assessments, and what Fred said as well, just managing your money, investing it, look for ways to save money as much as you can.
Thank you. Chris?
Hello. You can hear
Yeah,
me,
you're
right?
on. Yes, go ahead, Chris.
The budget last year is the current fiscal year, it's $333.8 million. That was actually a reduction of $2.6 million. Right now on the county level, I worked for 4 years under County Executive Mike Hine. He came in and he reduced county government by 39%, and he cut spending over $40 million. In the process of doing that, sometimes you make cuts maybe too much in a few
30
areas.
seconds.
I'd like to see some funding added back to the Office for the Aging. I want to make sure that social services is in a good place. You got to look at your sources of revenues and how much your expenditures are. Revenues coming in, we get, depending on the fiscal year, we get 24.6 to 26.4% of all revenues comes in from state and federal grant and other sources. Being that's the case, we have to make sure that if there's cuts.
Time.
Great, thank you. Aaron?
Okay, so thank you for the question. A couple of things that I think we can take a look at in terms of trying to hold the line on taxes, and try to ease the burden on people as much as possible. First off would be, I think we need to look at wherever possible shared services. I think at least on the town level, we've seen, the merger of the village and town police departments was a big cost savings for the town. It was kind of predicted that
30 seconds.
there could be issues, but I think most people on the whole would say that it's been a good thing and has saved the town money. So I would like to see the county do that as much as possible with shared services. Another thing I know we've seen with somewhat in the past, the town of Saugerties and the county had an agreement with snow plowing of some of the roads, saved the county and the town some money. So I'd like to see where we could increase, shared service with that. And then also, yes, I would agree with, some of the other candidates talking about
Time.
county tax agreement to get more money for Saugerties.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. So now we're at the portion where we're going to direct the question to a particular election that's going on. So this is going to be the first questions up for the legislatures. So the legislative candidates, and we're going to begin with Eric. So I'm going to read this and hopefully it's a little bit long, but so concentrate here, okay? As we all know, there are different branches of government meant to ensure separation of powers and limits on overreach. It's no different on the county level here in Ulster than it is on the national level. What do you envision the ideal working relationship to be between our county executive and members of our county legislature? You're up, Eric.
I mean, that's a pretty interesting question. I would say that I plan to sit on 2 committees in the legislature. And from what I understand of the process that's been explained to me is that things will come into the legislature and specific issues will come into the legislature, and then the specific committees will work on them together, and then they'll come to an agreement, and then it'll go back to the full chamber of everybody, and things will be agreed on more quickly.
30 seconds.
I would say, and I would say that my role in terms of working with the county executive would be, to the best of my ability, working to further what he or she wants to do or plans are, but also keep the county executive accountable regardless of what the policy is, and standing up for what I feel is right, regardless of what the county executive pushes, no matter how hard. I believe that any candidate should stand up for what they feel, regardless of how powerful someone is in their position.
Thank you, Eric. John, you're up.
First off, I think the relationship between the legislature and the county executive, I don't think we can return to what we've seen in the past before, where it's been a bit on the combative. The goal of both the executive branch and the legislative branch is to make sure government's working for the people. And when there's conflict, too much conflict going on there, it ends up hurting our constituents. In terms of what I view is that we need to have a little bit more co-equality between the branches. One of the things that I know the legislature has been pushing for, I know I would be in support of, is
30 seconds.
Getting the legislature to have access to the preliminary budget information. I think that would help them better craft amendments in the future, be able to kind of get a head start instead of having to cram in, trying to figure out what we want to do with a like $340 million budget all in just a few months. On top of that, as Eric said, be willing to work with him, but stand up and tell him when you think he's wrong, and stand up on the issues you care about. And I know many here know that I will, stand even if I end up being on the issue.
Thank you, John. Chris, you're up.
During my time in the legislature, there was battles that took place between the county executive's office and the controller's office and the county executive's office and the legislators. There were a lot of legislators that philosophically felt that the county executive branch was too powerful. It was created that way in the Ulster County Charter. And I don't necessarily have a problem with the county executive branch being slightly more powerful than the county legislative branch of government. But what I feel isn't a good thing when the county executive's office is setting policy in their budgets and are trying to be the only show in town. I had voters tell me I never even knew there was a legislature. I would only think there was a county executive from what I read in the newspapers. So I think there needs to be more sharing. The policy setting is the job of the county legislature, and setting a budget and delivering it to the legislature, that's the job of the county executive. And I don't think we should step on one another's toes, but we should be collaboration with each other on all those areas of the job.
You. Great. Thank you, Chris. Aaron, you're up.
So, yeah, I would say that I'm in favor of kind of restoring the county legislature to more of a co-equal branch of government, and not being in the past like it was being steamrolled, I would think, by the county executive's office. So I would most certainly be in favor of that. The county legislature should not be a rubber stamp for the executive. And so when the executive, I have a good relationship with the county executive.
30 seconds.
I look forward to working with him as much as possible on things that are going to be beneficial to the county and to Saugerties. But I'm going to stand up to him and tell him that, he's wrong if I disagree with him, if I think he's wrong. So I'm not afraid to stand up for what I think is right. But I look forward to working with him in a productive way. And my philosophy on working within co-equal branches of government is that you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. So I think it needs to be a positive, but to stand up for ourselves.
Thank you. Joe, you're up.
Sure. To be a legislator is policy, and the executive is operations. And there's a natural kind of war that goes on in Albany and in every county between executives and legislators. And right now, after the charter was crafted, it's very executive heavy. We definitely need to talk about that. I put up several policies that required we get information earlier. Sometimes it really does come down to postponing or voting no or putting things off. Me, Lynn Archer, Tracy Bartels, Dave Donaldson, we kind of rallied people together to try to start putting it back together and having a real legislature. And you can't fund appropriate unless you have the information, unless you're involved all along the way. It's going to take more policies like several of the ones that I put up, and it's going to take more brave legislators to band together, take the heat, and say no, or we're going to postpone until we get this information, until we're allowed at the table. It's going to be a better county when the legislature is restored, and we do need to do it.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, this next section is for Fred. The question is for Fred only. Are you, there you are. What are the major challenges that you would face in your next term as town supervisor, and how will you address them?
I think one of the major challenges is the pace of development. I joked the other day that there's not a tree left that's safe. Every inch of grass is either proposed for some type of housing or business purpose at this point. But we are just finishing a comprehensive plan update. I think the plan is a good reflection of the current issues of the time, and those comprehensive plan updates are very critical. Short-term vacation rentals was a mention in the last plan, and that's front and center now. And if you go back prior to that, nobody even heard of such a thing as Airbnb. So those plan updates give us a good template to work with zoning. I think it's exciting, but there's certainly a housing crisis as a result of all the development, especially in the hospitality and tourism trade, where those jobs that are coming may not be incomes that can support the current housing market. So there's a lot of work to do.
Thank you, Fred. So the next question is for Julie. What innovations have you initiated in your tenure as receiver of taxes? You're muted.
Okay. Well, I wanted to make paying taxes as easy as I could for the residents. Bringing the online software, I think, was one of the greatest things. It made it so much easier for people to view their taxes, pay their taxes online. People wanted to pay with their credit cards, and now you can do that. There is a fee that's collected by the software company, which is a disadvantage, but it is a convenience, and many people still pay it anyway. It's reduced the amount of traffic in our office, even besides COVID. It's reduced the phone calls that we get. People absolutely love the fact that they can just go on their computer, view their taxes, pay their taxes. And I just feel like it's brought us into the wave of the modern times.
Thank you. Okay, we're back to a question for all of the candidates. And I believe that John is going to be up first, if I'm following this correctly. Okay, this is the question for all candidates. What previous experience do you have running for office? What positions did you run for, and what party did you affiliate with? And we're going to begin with John.
So as I said in my opening statement, I'm currently a Saugerties Town Board member. I ran for that office on the Democratic line. In 2019, I also ran for the same seat in the primary as well as the general election. And during the primary, I had received the endorsement of the Working Families Party. For the general election, I carried the Democratic Party line. On top of that, I've also served on the Saugerties Animal Welfare Fund as a board member since its founding. As on top of that, I think I bring a unique perspective from my private sector. I work at a company called Taconic Biosciences. It focuses on mouse models and used for medical research. And in that, it's a very technical hands-on position and requires you to really pay attention to everything you're doing. And I think that will really play a role in that, as well as plus a lot of the experience I've already mentioned in terms of what we've accomplished at the town board, and what I'd really want to continue bringing that to the county legislature.
Thank you, John. Fred? Are you there, Fred? Okay, we're going to go to Julie. Julie, did you get that question?
Yes. Many years ago, I was a member of the Independent Party. And then I was not enrolled without any political party. My job is not political in any way, shape, or form. So it really, this is the only office I've ever run for. And basically the reason I'm running is because it's my job and I need my job. I love my job, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Chris?
I am a registered Democrat. I got elected to office in 2013. I served 2 terms for 4 years in the Ulster County Legislature. I have also carried the Working Families Party line in 4 elections, the Independence Party line in 2 elections, the Green Party line in an election. I'm looking forward to, this would be my 3rd term in office, and I will be in the Democratic caucus, and it looks to be a Democratic majority in the county legislature. I will continuing to work on things that I worked on before, improving upon healthcare. I wrote the Lyme disease awareness policy when I was in the legislature, and I served on the Economic Development Committee, the Ways and Means Committee, the Healthcare Committee, which I was vice chairman of for 2 years, and I was on the Highways and Public Works Committee for a year. So I can look to bring that experience forward for this 3rd term in office, which I will begin in 2022.
Thank you. Aaron, you're up. You're muted, Aaron.
Yeah, I apologize. Can you just repeat the text of the
Sure.
question one more
I
time?
know, because people are actually giving more of the answer than actually what the question is. The question is, what previous experience do you have running for office? What positions did you run for, and what party did you affiliate with?
Okay, so as I stated in my introduction, I ran for this office, Legislative District 1, County Legislature in 2019. I ran on the Democratic and Working Families lines in addition to the Green Party line. I also primaried in an opportunity to ballot for the Independence Party line to try to win it in a write-in primary. I came within 2 votes of winning as a write-in candidate for the Independence Party line. And again, as I said before, I ended up coming 7 votes short of the general election. So I carried the Democratic, Working Families, and Green Party lines in 2019. And in addition, I explored a potential run for the New York State Assembly in 2018 in a special election for the district that encompassed Saugerties. It was decided, the Democratic nomination was decided by the county chairs, the Democratic Party of 7 counties. I interviewed amongst the 7 county chairs, and ultimately Aidan O'Connor was chosen as our candidate. So that was my other.
Okay. Thank you. Joe, you're up.
Yes, the first and only office I ever ran for before this was county legislator. I was a registered Independence Party member. Me and my opponent, Chris Allen, who I now consider a friend, opened up every single line. We had, I think, the largest primary with the most lines of any other primary in the history of this county. One of my proudest moments was flipping the legislature to Democrat and putting the first female Democratic chair in county history in.
30 seconds. Right.
Okay, we have Eric. Is Eric here? Okay, we can go back. Fred, we missed you. We skipped over, but you have an opportunity if you're here. Did you hear the question?
I'm here.
Did you hear
Yes.
the question?
So I ran for office the first time in 2002 for legislator as a Republican. I was elected to town board in 2000. Actually, 2000 was legislative. 2004 was town board, where I was successfully elected. In 2008, I ran as a Democratic nominee for town board, and I had success. And I ran for town super as a Democrat since then. And I ran for supervisor in 2017 successfully, and hope to as a Democrat, and I hope to do that again this year.
Thank you. I don't know if Eric's back. I think Eric might have gone out because of lousy internet. Eric, do you want an opportunity? I know that you're a newbie. Do you want to answer that?
You would like to answer it. So I'm 20 years old. I don't have other experience running for office. This is my first time running for office. I've gotten endorsed by the Saugerties Democratic Committee, Working Families Party, Ulster County Young Dems. And, I've raised thousands of dollars, and Republicans are telling me that they're voting for me. So I believe that I'm doing good so far, and I've been welcomed into this community very well. I feel very welcome here, and I just want to say thank you for everybody, and I'm looking forward to keep learning.
Thank you, Eric. At this point, this is a question for the legislative candidates. And up would be Joe first, I believe. Is that correct? Joe would be the first one up for the legislative one, I think. I'm sorry, I'm taking little notes here, but I'm not that, it's a little confusing. Is it your understanding that Joe is up next? Because if not, I'm open to hear that I'm wrong.
Who went first last time? What, Aaron, did you go first? Oh, John did. So I think it would be Chris.
Chris, okay, Chris, you're up. Thank you for the clarification. This is for legislators only. As a legislator, what legislation would you propose that would most benefit Saugertesians? 1 minute, Chris.
Well, I want to add some funding to the Office for the Aging. I know we have a graying population in Ulster County and in Saugerties, and we need to add some services better than where they are now in terms of helping people file insurance appeals, getting scheduled for things like doctor's appointments, vaccinations, helping them out with scheduling transportation availability. I would also like to work with state officials and the state lottery.
30 seconds.
Up a lottery system where it would start funding for infrastructural improvements of the Ashokan Reservoir, the Gilboa Dam, and the Shandaken Tunnel, and towards funding filtration plants for the New York City water system. That's what's going to be needed to solve this problem with the turbid waters that are affecting the Esopus Creek and the Saugerties Beach and all the residents that live along the Esopus Creek shoreline areas. I think if the New York State Lottery and the state officials could start generating revenues from that, help solve.
Thank you, Chris. Aaron, you're up.
Okay, I would think in terms of legislation that I would be interested in proposing or helping shepherd through, things that I want to see accomplished would include working on promoting affordable housing for young people, families, and seniors. Obviously it's a huge issue here in Saugerties and throughout Ulster County. So that's something I think we need to be looking at in terms of maybe with short-term rentals. There may be something that we can do on a county level about regulations about making sure that any short-term rental is owner occupied. So you can't necessarily be somebody who's out of county who owns 50 properties. Maybe something we want to make sure there's an owner occupied, mandate on that. And then also working to create more access to high-speed broadband internet access. It's a big issue in some of the more rural parts of Saugerties. In my campaign 2 years ago, I was encountering some voters that were dealing with dial-up.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Joe, you're up.
I'll try to go through a lot. I have a lot of policy. I want to raise the tipping fee. I think we need to get a handle on solid waste. Seneca Meadows is closing, and I think we need to move towards reusable, renewable, and compostable. And the tipping fee is a big part of that. I want to do a capital project tracker. There's winners and losers in this big county with regards to infrastructure, and I think the southern part of the county gets far more road and bridge work done. I want to share the bed tax with Saugerties after raising it through the state, and I want a policy that does not get revenue from incarceration, and we need to do away with out-of-town inmates. We have federal inmates coming in, other counties coming in. It's costly and it's terrible for our COs. And I think we should not be creating revenue string off of incarceration. All those things are good for Saugerties, but all those things are good for the county as well.
Thank you. Eric? I'm going to move to John.
All right, so I think kind of going off, Joe had mentioned the Resource Recovery Agency. I think something that we need to look into there is, and I would push for this, is kind of requiring haulers across the county to switch over to dual stream. During my tour there with Eric, they mentioned how that's been a bit of an issue, that some of the haulers use single stream across the county and they end up mixing them and ends up just kind of getting tossed in the trash instead of actually being recycled. Like Aaron mentioned, affordable housing is a major issue. So I would like to actually see some of the COVID relief funds used to help address that, since the giant increase that we've been seeing in the market here is directly tied to that. I would really like to see them to actually move out of focused on Kingston and move into the other populated areas, such as Saugerties. A lot of it's focused in Kingston. I think Saugerties would be an ideal place to really start working on some kind of project on that. And then another quick one is invasive species. We know that in the creek, we're dealing with an issue, and I think it's a county-wide issue all over, and I think the county needs to start creating a committee and policy that looks up on that issue.
Thank you. Now, this is the question for Fred. Are you there? Because, yeah, there you are. Okay, great. What do you see as the relationship between the town council or the town board and the police department? 1 minute, please. Is Fred here?
Yep,
Ah.
I'm here.
Yeah, okay.
So the relationship between the town board and the police department is that we are the administrators of the police department. Surrey's currently does not have a police commission. The town board functions as the police commission. The town board has to engage itself in any disciplinary action. We have to take approval for policy activities, and we have to fund the police department.
30 seconds.
It's a pretty substantial responsibility. The police department constitutes one of the second largest budget that we oversee, and it's one of the largest rosters of staff members. So there's quite a bit that goes with it, and I think anyone on the town board would agree that it takes a significant portion of our time.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, this question is for you, Julie. It's a question of helping. How can you help, or can you help residents who are having trouble paying property taxes? What advice would you give to someone who is struggling to pay their property taxes?
I honestly don't get a lot of that. I think telling people to budget better, that you're going to have this bill coming. So if you can just put amount away each month and save it, put it in a separate bank account, because you have to pay it. I feel bad for those people that are struggling, and I get it, but I just think, if you're going to have this bill, you need to budget for it.
Thank you. So this is going to be a question for everyone, and this will probably be the last general question before the 2-minute closing statements, so that we can end at a decent time. I also want to remind people that your 2-minute closing statement, if there were things that you had to say that you were cut off on, that's an opportunity for you to let us know where there was information that we somehow had the bell ring and you stopped. So this is for everyone, and it's the last one. What are the 2 main reasons you're running for office? And at this point, I am totally confused of who goes first. So I'll just pick. John, could you answer that?
Of course. So I guess the first main reason, I always call it a little bit of a cliche reason, but the reason I really, ran for town board, got involved with politics, is that I want to help as many people as I can, improve their lives. And I feel that, with the skill set I have, the unique experiences I've gone through, having worked, manual jobs, now having a bit more of a professional job, really gives me the skill set to to deliver on that and be able to ensure that everyone's
30 seconds.
not just one group. And I guess the second one would be trying to think on that. Ooh, I'm drawing worst time to draw a blank.
One good reason is okay.
If I can
Okay.
think of another one, I'll fit it in my closing statement.
Okay, thanks. Next one up is Fred. Two main reasons you're running.
So for folks that have been with me for a while will recognize what I'm about to say, but I was inspired when I was taking classes at New Paltz. I spent the summer in 1994 or 1996 in Israel. And while I was there, it became apparent to me that my life at home did not happen by mistake, and the world outside of the United States was significantly different. And I left
3 seconds.
that trip very enlightened and motivated to want to come home and play a more active role in government in any way that I could. Having had experience on the town board when Supervisor Helsmortal retired, I felt a natural calling to kind of pick up where he left off. And it's extraordinarily satisfying to be able to help people in a way. The other night I got off the throughway and I stopped at the red light on the southbound entrance, and I was overcome with joy because that light was a long-standing fight and we finally did it.
Thank you, Fred. Julie?
Well, the main reason I'm running is it's my job. That's the only way I can keep my job, is to run for election. But I do love what I do. I've always enjoyed it. And I'm proud to be a resident of Saugerties, and I'm proud to represent the residents of Saugerties. And I want to make paying taxes as easy as I can for everybody.
Thank you. Chris?
I think locally, we need to improve the quality of life for people in Saugerties. There were objectives that I worked towards in the legislature, like passing the Lyme disease awareness policy. I want to make improvements in healthcare. I want to improve services for the elderly. I want to help clean up the Esopus Creek. I'd like to see affordable housing improved upon in Saugerties and Ulster County. I'd like to see better jobs and a better economy in Ulster County. Those are reasons, very important reasons, that will improve the quality of for the residents of Saugerties. And I want to continue with strong constituent concerns, as I did before, to help people. I had a very strong record of helping people. When people came to me for assistance, I very promptly and diligently addressed their needs and was very successful at helping people and working with other elected officials on the town and village level.
Thank you. Aaron?
I would say that, the two main reasons why I'm running for this office are, I believe in public service. I think public service is amongst the most noble of callings, regardless of what that service is. I believe personally that everybody who's a citizen of the United States should serve in some capacity, whether that's, serving the country, either in the armed forces or serving your community in some way, volunteering. I think everybody needs to do at least a little bit in terms of helping make their community and their state a better place. And then the other reason why I'm deciding to run is because I want to make sure that this community is great for everybody and is going to be stronger going forward for the next generation, for them to be able to put roots down, raise a family here, have a good paying job, because Saugerties has given me so much, and I want to give that to the next generation.
Thank you. Joe, you're up.
Yeah, my 4 kids growing up here, it breaks my heart to think that I might have to visit my grandkids somewhere else someday, because my kids will be forced to go somewhere else. The jobs won't be here for the cost of living where it is. And I think the other reason would be national frustrations and state frustrations. There's not a lot I feel like I can do about that, but getting involved on the local level really helped. And I want to change the world from the ground up. Sometimes I think if we do things on the state level or on the county level, you see it go to the state. We passed some plastic restrictions in the legislature that went up to the state. Specifically, let's get back to specifics. the lower Esopus. I have some ideas on how to hold the state and the city accountable. The tipping fee, I want to raise it. The UCSEA, the union that's overlooked and abused, real jail reform with regards to those out-of-town inmates. And Saugerties taxes, we don't get our fair share. We don't get our fair share of road work, sales tax, bed tax, state aid for schools. We don't get any of it. And I want to put up legislation on day one, month one, that will go after a lot of that.
Thank you, Joe. Is Eric here? Because if he is not here, I would advise whoever is in our legislature, you got to do something about our broadband. It's really terrible. He keeps getting knocked off. So unfortunately, Eric's not here. So now will be time for the 2-minute closing statement. Before we do that, I'm hoping that the candidates will agree that whatever questions did not get answered, I could send them to you. You could send them back and I can then forward it to the folks who submitted questions and not all of them got answered. So I'd like to begin with Fred, if you could give your 2-minute closing statement.
Okay. Thank you all again for being here with us tonight. I really think this is a helpful platform for us to hear from people and for people to hear our thoughts and ideas. Something I would just like to shed a little more light on is the condition of the Esopus Creek that got mentioned in passing, but the town board has unanimously supported a number of initiatives to try to participate in the environmental impact statement public hearings that are underway. For anyone who has not offered comments, please do. We are building a coalition and we're happy to have the partners that we do, including the City of Kingston, Riverkeeper, Mountain Keeper, and a number of others. We are, our voice is being heard. And I am somewhat optimistic that we can improve the quality of the water in the Esopus Creek. Whether you live there or not, that is an important resource for all of us. So we are working very hard on that and we'll continue that fight. Other things, you know, managing the budget is key. Am I out of time? I hear a noise.
No, 1 minute. 1 minute.
Okay, so we are managing the budget and seeking opportunities to restructure the government so we save money are always at the forefront. Opportunities for consolidation could yield significant savings, and the measure of that was the successful consolidation of the police department over 10 years ago. Just last year, for the first time, the cumulative budget of the current town police department matched what the town and the village spent separately 10 years ago. So, and we enhanced service when we did it. So those opportunities are still out there, and hopefully through the relationships we're building and shared services, perhaps we can foster more of that and combining our resources to build out infrastructure. There are many things in Saugerties that still need work, and we can't do those on our own. Our taxpayers can't carry that burden. So hopefully we have partners to help us with it. But thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Julie, you're up.
I'll keep this short and sweet. As you know, my job is not political, but I will continue to work hard for the residents of Saugerties and try and make the tax-paying system as easy as possible. I greatly appreciate your endorsement and all of your support. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Julie. Chris. Oop.
Yeah.
There he is, Chris. You're
In
on,
my
Chris.
In my third term in office, I want to increase funding to the Office for the Aging. I want to make a simple rule change in the county legislature to make a more professional, less drama-filled environment by making the chairman, chairwoman position a 2-year term instead of a 1-year term. It makes no sense that it's a 1-year term. It pulls legislators apart from one another, and it really turns the legislature into a soap opera. I want to make a rule policy in Ulster County that nursing homes have to submit a more comprehensive emergency plan, like in the case of a pandemic, that would be overseen by the County Department of Health. I want to work with other elected officials and with private industry to help the affordable housing crisis, to bring economic development and better jobs into the area. I want to continue to work on healthcare. As I was strong in the area of Lyme disease, I was the only elected official in the last decade who always put number one priority as it should be. And as this pandemic has proven through all this, I also want to create a community-based composting center with the Resource Recovery Agency where residents can go and drop off their scraps. And I want to work to improve upon green energy sources, increase upon the size of solar farms in Ulster County and other green energy sources, and work with other.
Thank you. Aaron, you're up.
So again, want to thank you, Christine, the program committee and the Saugerties Democratic Committee for sponsoring this event tonight. Thank you very much. So again, I'm honored to be the Democratic and Working Families nominee for County Legislature in District 1. And some of the issues that I really want to make sure, again, that I'm going to be, focusing on and wanting to tackle, besides obviously wanting to hold the line on property taxes as much as possible, I want to make sure that we push for sustainable economic development here. Keyword is sustainable, and for we don't want to bring in economic development here that's going to be polluting our air, our water, our natural resources. Any jobs that we bring in here, we want to make sure that they are environmentally friendly and sustainable. I want to make sure that we fight to improve our county infrastructure, roads and bridges. As I think Joe mentioned before, it seems like Saugerties and the northern part of the county kind of see the short end of the stick compared to some of the other parts of the county. So I think that, it's something that we really need to be focused on because it's important. People get to work. We need to make sure, that things are safe and that our infrastructure is built to harden for the future. So we need to be working on that. Promoting affordable housing for young people, families, and seniors. More access to high-speed broadband internet, protecting our environment and natural resources, and working to address the ongoing opioid epidemic that's been worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic. So those are all issues that I think we need to be working on. I'm looking forward to hopefully working on them if I get elected into the county legislature. And I'm asking for your support in November because I think we need a fresh voice and a new perspective into county government, and somebody who has the experience working in both a federal government office and with the New York State Legislature, I think can bring a fresh perspective to that office. And I'm going to ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Joe, you're up.
Thanks again, Christine. Thanks again, everybody. We only got 2 minutes. I would love to take a deeper dive into taxes, environment, the ESOPIS, the Airbnb, the jail, the RRA, campaign finance, economic development. We didn't talk about it all. Look, we have thousands of people coming up from the city and other states right now. Economic development needs to take a total turn towards infrastructure. The people are here. We're not some hidden island. We have to protect ourselves from these bad tax abatements, from businesses that come up here and are looking to take advantage of our government. We do not need to be spending money on tourism the same way we did. We don't need flyers in coffee shops. We're wasting a lot of money. We need to protect the water we have here, work on our schools. I'm gonna continue fighting pay for play. I'm gonna make sure that every tax dollar goes as far as it possibly can. Every dollar wasted or corruptly spent is a dollar that should or could have gone to an environmental study, troubled youth, infrastructure. I'm going to keep going after it the same way I did the first 2 years I was there. I was in the paper a lot. I took a lot of arrows. I'm very proud of those scars I have, because if you're not mentioned in the paper, if you're not taking heat as an elected official, I'm just telling you, you're not really fighting for the people. It is difficult. And on day one, you are put in positions where you are asked to go a different direction than what you feel is right. And so many people I worked with here and there, they would do it. And it's not okay. I'm not going to accept the healthcare for part-time officials. I'm not going to fill out for mileage. I'm probably the only person running for office in Saugerties that won't be accepting a single donation. If elected, I will be working for the people, just like I did for those two years I was there. And that's all I think about when I'm up in those meetings. A lot of times there's 8-10 people and we're making big decisions on millions of dollars. And sometimes it's shameful what goes on. And I'll never stop fighting for the people, and I'll take everything that comes along with it proudly.
Thank you, Joe. Is Eric here? Okay, Eric is not here. So John, you're up.
Again, thank you to Christine for moderating this, and to the programming committee for putting this on, and for everyone attending. And of course, Christine had asked if we'd be willing to answer any questions that weren't answered. And I'm always open. I will be dropping my email later after I'm done with my closing statement for anyone to reach out for any issue that they want to talk about. So there are two areas that we didn't really talk about that I wanted to kind of bring up in my closing statement, and that is the loss of the mental health services we had at the hospitals in Kingston, as well as support for the arts. In terms of the mental health services, I think that with some of the COVID money that were coming in, knowing how that's really worsened people's mental health across the county and in the nation, really, I think some of that funding should be directed to county-supported mental health services, a mobile mental health unit. In terms of the arts support, recently I just saw how the county gave $12,500 to UPAC, which is great, and I think that's something we need to do more. Anyone who knows Saugerties knows that we've become a bit of an art destination. We have Saugerties Arts Tour. We have Opus 40. I mean, the arts are constantly growing, and that ends up being a huge economic multiplier. You have a thriving arts scene. People want to come and see it. They want to set their roots down in a place that's been beautified in that way. And then on top of that, the usual, wanting to really work on the environment. Pat Ryan came out with his recent Green New Deal. A lot of that I would be fully in support of. I think some of it we actually can go a little bit further.
30 seconds.
One of them, he talks about wanting to bring training to the high schools starting by 2025. I think that's something we need to start now. I think transparency we need to work a little bit on. I was on a meeting where they didn't have any of the amendment language for the budget amendments the legislature was proposing. And that should be readily available when you're in the middle of voting for those, especially when asked by someone in the public. So again, thank you for everyone for coming out tonight, and hope to see you guys all out on the campaign trail.
Time.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank all of the candidates for coming here in a really difficult situation with Zoom. And I am hoping that whoever our nominees are in November, that we will have an in-person opportunity for people to meet the candidates, our candidates. I want to remind everyone that on June 12th starts early voting. We have 6 candidates for town board running for 2 positions. We have 3 candidates running for 1 position for legislative district 2. I want to say that I am impressed with all of our candidates. I think we have great folks. Whoever gets these nominations, I'm going to be proud to stand behind. I'm sure you will as well. I invite all of you, please, between now and June 12th, if someone's in a primary, look them up, talk to them, find out what their literature is, go to their websites. For those who are in November, I thank you for coming so early because I know that things really start up after the summer. So again, thank you very much. This recording will be available, and see you at the early polls. Good night.